I'm Ginger, and today I'm going to guide you in making creamy baked potato corn chowder. This is another recipe from my catering days that was a favorite with our customers. It's relatively simple. You do have to do a little prep work ahead of time, but it is well worth the effort. So first you take half a cup of butter, which is one whole stick or two of these neatly packaged quarter sticks. We're going to put that on a medium-high heat and just let that start melting. So this soup combines the flavors of baked potato soup that you get at a lot of restaurants, and then we add a creamed corn, which adds a really nice consistency as well as a really good flavor to it. This does call for some baked potatoes, and so what you want to do is either bake them ahead of time in the microwave. You can throw them in there and nuke them, or you can, as you are cooking through the week, or if you think a couple days ahead of time, to just throw some on the grill while maybe you're making a steak or something. Throw some baked potatoes on the grill and keep them for later. So as that butter begins to melt, we are going to add a cup of chopped onion, and then at this time I'm going to go ahead and add some chili peppers. Now you can use a canned chili pepper, which is the little chopped green chilies, just the little 4-ounce can, but I'm going to use fresh that I had frozen from my garden last year. It's a Thai hot chili pepper, so it has a lot of heat. I'm only going to use 4 of those, and so I'm going to go ahead and put those in. If you're using the canned chilies, you do not want to add those at this point. You just want to add your onions into the butter and allow that to soften. But since I'm using fresh peppers, then we want that to saute along with our onions in the butter to allow them to get good and soft. And I did not chop those onions exceptionally fine, or the peppers either, because we're going to zhuzh them. We're going to use an immersion blender and make them nice and smooth as soon as they get softened. Now, I usually saute my onions and peppers for about 6 or 7 minutes because I like them to be really soft, because we're going to use the immersion blender and we want our mixture that we're going to do with that to be really smooth. I'm not a fan of biting into an onion. I do like the taste of onion. I like the flavor, but I do not want to bite into a hunk of onion. So this recipe actually calls for it to be blended, but I go the extra step and make sure that those onions are extra soft so they get into a nice smooth consistency. Now typically when you saute peppers and onions, you want the onions to turn translucent so that you can tell that they're cooked and ready for the next step. So now we're going to turn the heat down just a little, and we're going to add 4 tablespoons of flour. This will thicken that mixture, of course. We will just cook that for about a minute together. You do want to stir this after you add the flour. It will stick to the bottom of your pan, and it will make a big scorched mess. So I've done it before. So we do want to stir that and make sure that that flour gets cooked. We do not want a raw flour taste in our soup. That's typically anytime you're making a roux of any type with flour or gravy, anything, you want to saute that flour in your oil, your grease, your butter, so that it gets that flour taste out. You do love the thickening agent of flour, but you don't want the flour taste. And that has cooked for about a minute. So now I'm going to take our container put that lovely flour, onion, and pepper mixture in there. Set that off the heat so it doesn't scorch on the bottom while we're doing this. So now we have our mixture. We take our immersion blender, and I usually start out on low because it is a bit liquid and it will fly all over you, and it's hot, so it's not a good thing. So I start out on low and I get it blended somewhat. Then I go to high and really mix it up well. You will in this mixture see small pieces or chunks of maybe your pepper, flecks actually, which is fine. Make sure I got my onions blended. Okay. So now we'll just put this mixture back into our pan. It's very loud. I'm going to use this to scrape it off. We want all that yummy goodness back in our pan. I don't want to leave any on our blender. So now, you see, we'll add this. It's nice and blended and smooth. So now we will add 4 cups of chicken broth to our roux mixture. Peppers, onions. And you can use chicken broth, canned chicken broth. You can use fresh chicken broth that you've made. You can use the chicken base mixed with water, which is what I did. I didn't have any frozen today, any of my chicken broth. So we add that together. And we're going to leave this on medium, low medium heat and add the rest of our ingredients. So you add 4 cups of chicken broth to that, and we're going to add 2 cans of cream style corn. This is just regular cream style corn, nothing special about it. 2 cans of that, and that will also help to thicken this soup and adds a nice flavor to it as well. Kind of an unexpected. We normally in restaurants you'll see the baked potato soup, or there's lots of recipes for baked potato soup, and I love those as well, but this adds a nice extra little flavor. It's unexpected. So we'll add that, and we're going to add a teaspoon of pepper and a teaspoon and a half of salt. We like our seasonings. We add that to the mixture. We also want a tablespoon of dried parsley. We want that to cook into that soup. It's pretty, and it gives it a little extra flavor. And then we have 4 cups of chopped baked potatoes. Now this, what I did today, because I didn't plan ahead, you can always plan ahead and throw an extra couple potatoes in the oven or on the grill when you're cooking one evening or one day, and have them ready to go for this soup. But today I just nuked. 4 large potatoes makes around 4 cups. So I'm going to add those in there as well. And as you see, my chopping is not very uniform, but that's okay. It cooks down into the soup anyway. Right. So we will allow this to simmer for just a little bit before we add our cheese, bacon, and half and half. Now you have turned the heat up to about a medium, and we wanted this to boil. So you let that come to a boil and you stir it really often while you're allowing that to happen. because again, it will stick on the bottom of the pan. We have a lot of thick, creamy things in this soup that have a tendency to hang on to the bottom of the pan. So that has come to a boil. We've stirred it, we've kept it loose on the bottom, and now we're going to reduce the heat down to a simmer. And we're going to add three or four tablespoons of bacon bits. Now this is 4 strips of bacon that I cooked and chopped. And you can of course use the packaged in the store, but today I went ahead and cooked my own. The actual recipe calls for 3 tablespoons, but the more bacon the better in my mind. So that's about 4 tablespoons. I typically think a slice of bacon is about a tablespoon. So I usually cook about 4 slices to go in this. And that's another easy thing you can do ahead of time. As you're cooking breakfast one morning, chop up some extra bacon and then throw it in the fridge and let it sit until you're ready to make the soup. And so now we're going to add a cup of cheddar cheese. So we allow that to simmer for about 5 minutes with those bacon bits and that cheese in there. And after that has simmered, we will add a cup and a half of half and half. Now you certainly don't have to use half and half, you can just use milk. But if you do that, your soup won't be nearly as creamy and thick. And so we see in our soup that our cheese is melting. And I'm going to go ahead and add half and half. We'll stir that in and allow that to simmer on a low heat for 10 minutes is a good time for that. And you do want to stir it occasionally during the time that it's simmering, just to prevent sticking. So after simmering for 10 minutes, all those great flavors have meshed together. And it's ready to eat. Dish up a bowl here, or a mug. See that beautiful parsley in it, and the bacon bits, and the potatoes. Let that cool for just a minute while I grab a spoon. So this has just a little bit of heat from those chili peppers. And if you use the canned green chilies, they're not going to have quite as much heat. So you might watch, if you use a fresh pepper, you might not want to feed this to children or anyone who has who's susceptible to eating hot things. Some people can't handle heat like that, heartburn and such. This is really good also to eat with cornbread, of course, or a nice crusty bread, or just crackers. And it's a really good meal as well to mix up a double batch and take to someone who might not be feeling well, or that you just want to say you care. You can take a jar of this to someone and they'll love you forever for it. This is also one of those recipes. You will be asked for the recipe, so go ahead and jot it down, or it won't bother me if you just tell people that it's a secret recipe and you don't give out your recipes. A lot of people did that. They would pick up things from our catering business and they wouldn't tell their guests that they were having over that they hadn't made it. However you want to handle that. This is, I'm going to grab a bite of potato and corn and bacon. And it was delicious. You will love this soup.